Hello, welcome to another edition of Prove All Things. I want to welcome everyone who's joining us today, whether you're watching live on YouTube, Facebook, or Twitter. We look forward to your comments. Welcome to those watching on the CGI Digital Network app, whether on our website, on your television, or your Roku or Apple TV, or on your tablets or phones. Thank you for joining us as well. I want to say hello to co-host Mike James. How you doing, Mike?
Hey Jeff, doing well. Good to see you there. We're in the middle of September, coming up on Holy Day season. Fall Holy Day season is upon us, and I'll be traveling to Wyoming this Sabbath. I'll be speaking to our
That's that's
group up
that's
there on
the
trumpets.
Sabbath. The Sabbath is trumpets, right? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It's hard to believe we're already at that time of the year.
It comes quicker than you know.
Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah. I'm looking forward to these holy days that are coming up, and I guess after trumpets, only just a few weeks after that, we'll be traveling to the Feast of Tabernacles.
Yeah, yeah, I'll be heading down to Jamaica. I haven't been there for a number of years. I attended a few feasts there a while back, and I'm looking forward to getting back there to Runaway Bay, Jamaica for the feast this year. They're
Hmm.
going to have me speak one day at the main feast site, but there's a satellite feast site somewhere on the island that they're going to drive me to speak on
Okay.
another day. So that'll be interesting. Yeah.
All right. So that's the main feast site you'll be at there in Jamaica.
Yeah, I'll be at the main feast site
All
and
right.
traveling one day to another feast site they have also on the island. Yeah.
Yeah, there's some of our congregation in Atlanta will be there, so hopefully they'll be able to say
Okay,
hello to
cool.
you while you're down there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
again, I one day would like to go to Jamaica because it's such a beautiful place. Weather is lovely and just great beaches, great people, just a great overall great food too. Uh,
Get an opportunity, anybody out there, you'll really enjoy a trip to Jamaica. Really fun place to go to.
hmm Yep. All right. Well, we'll go ahead and introduce our today's guest. Our who's our mystery guest today? Let's see. We have Bill Lucenhide. How you doing, Bill?
Hey, I'm doing unbelievable, Jeff and Mike. Glad to be with you here today.
Hey,
It's
Live.
Bill,
always
thanks for getting the memo on the black shirt. Okay.
yeah.
I wanted to be part of the team, and it's great to be with you here live and in living color.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
really appreciate being with you and enjoyed being on Prove All Things.
Yeah, it's always good to have Bill here. I think Bill is a man of humor, and I guess he can understand our humor. And a lot of times, some people they don't understand our humor, so it can get you in trouble sometimes if you're joking about stuff and people are taking you seriously. But it's always good to have fun.
Well, you guys are at least a little more towards my generation. I've learned something, though, that don't joke like this with younger people.
Hmm.
Uh, we grew up in an era where, we were kind of you made fun of each other's clothes and you tripped each other. These are your friends, mind you. Tripped each
Hmm.
other up, played gags on each other, made fun of their mom. Had rock fights with your friends. It's not quite like that anymore. I'm not trying to judge that. Maybe
Hmm.
we were goofy, but you guys, we come from that generation. It was a little bit different, and so I've learned to be more delicate
Hmm.
with younger generation. They offend a little bit easier. Uh,
Hmm.
and we may have been too over the top. So maybe we were messed up.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah, I definitely could agree with some of that. That there
Yeah.
were times where that wasn't such a good idea. No doubt about it.
Yeah. There's a lot of things I did as a kid that was illegal in that respect. Still illegal, and and definitely was bad then. And definitely a lot worse now because probably now there's enough internet to catch people when they do
Uh,
bad things.
I will predict. I will predict. Now I don't know this about you too, but I was in the hospital from goofiness as a kid. You guys probably were in the hospital at least once during your teen years too. Am I right? Uh,
I,
I
yeah,
uh,
well,
I
yes,
cr-
I was, yeah.
the only thing I can relate to that is climbing through over an old garage, and when we came back from where we were, one of the bricks, those big bricks came loose
Mhm.
and hit me in the back of my head, and I had to go to the hospital because I had to get a few stitches up there. So
Mhm.
Yeah, see, we were messed up. I don't think kids go to the hospital as often as we did in our generation. So, you
Mhm.
know, again, don't have us design the safety manuals
Mhm.
for anything. Anyway, uh, I'll launch into what we are going to potentially discuss here, if you guys don't
Okay.
mind.
hey,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
that's a great segue into your subject, actually.
Yeah.
Decision making, leadership. Yeah.
Hey, and before we do that, Bill, could you just remind people your background and like where you're at and those type of things?
Well, I appreciate that. Again, I'm Bill Lucenheit. I'm the president of a registered investment advisory firm, manage mutual funds, financial planning, that type of thing. Been doing that for about 20 years. A Church of God member for pushing about 50 years now. Uh, the I was a candidate for the United States Congress and had the highest third party vote in the nation for any office. Uh, Tea Party endorsed and all that. That was an interesting experience. The I'll be speaking at the Feast of Tabernacles for United Church of God in Sturgis, South Dakota this year. And I run a Facebook page for anybody who would like to join that talks about the Sabbath day. It's called Seventh Day Sabbath Keepers. And about 160,000 people from all over the world, Sabbath keepers of all kinds, that are there at Seventh Day Sabbath Keepers. So again, we I post things that relate to the Sabbath day and the keeping of the Sabbath and apologetics and that type of thing, and just reminders of that. So
Hmm.
again, glad to be here with Prove All Things, and I'll launch into today's discussion topic, and the title will be Seven Ministry Types That End in Failure, and we'll kind of focus a little bit on
Hmm.
ministry, but ministry is leadership.
Hmm.
And so there's all kinds of leadership that we have. Leadership in our family.
Hmm.
If you find yourself with these types of personality types, it's going to cause problems even within your own family.
Hmm.
But in my experience, I've dealt with all kinds of business leaders, military leaders, uh, coaches, business people, politicians. And so, of these ministerial types, because ministers are basically leaders and teachers, uh, we're going to discuss some of the types that end in failure. So we
Okay.
can apply this to everyone who's watching. Don't just say, "Oh yeah, my minister's like that."
Hmm.
Maybe you're like that, and it's going to hurt you in your career and your family and all your other human interactions. So um, I've come to notice about seven different types, and again, we use ministry as a broad term, that end in failure. It
Okay.
doesn't work, okay, or at the very least, it's going to hinder the effectiveness of the team, okay.
Hmm.
And what I mean is that ministry that's not fulfilling its intended purpose, to love people, to
Hmm.
love God, and to work towards those ends. Again, it doesn't mean that a church or a ministry or a business even uh, will fail to exist, but it could have greater heights. Okay, we get in the way.
Hmm.
What was it? What was it? Someone said that we've met the enemy and it's us, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
You
Hmm.
know, and in a lot of organizations, the seeds of their destruction start from the very beginning. Okay,
Hmm.
and it's important to identify that and early on. And I know
Right.
in business, I see guys that go in there and they do everything.
Hmm.
A one man show and it gets off the ground, but they never evolve into delegating and
Hmm.
finding strength in the different areas and learning just to be more of a philosophy coach. They over meddle. They don't know how to delegate. And
Hmm.
again, you can have some modicum of success, but then moving into that next step is too difficult for uh, those type of people to achieve.
You know what? In my experience with the church, which is not as long as yours, because I think you weren't been in the church since I've been born, so uh, I've seen a lot of what fly by night churches come and go. Like I'll hear about a church. I'll be like, yeah, let me go back to their website, see what they're doing, and like they're no longer they're no longer doing anything, or they become a couple of other groups and stuff. So that and I guess there's maybe the whole history of the church for since Christ. There's been these churches have grown, churches have faded out and things. So there is something going on there where there's this cycle of where churches are maybe they'll grow and become big at some point, but later they're just a legacy church. Like the Worldwide Church of God, which I guess you started with, is a legacy church. It no longer exists in its form that most people know.
Well, when I was a kid, Sears Roebuck
Mm-hmm.
was a behemoth, massive company. They built the Sears Tower in Chicago. They were original catalog mail order business. Talk about being ahead of their time, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They were the Amazon of their era. The stores were huge
Mm-hmm.
and top of the line, and yet it failed. It was not willing to evolve, pardon the word, into a new era. They should have been the Amazon of today,
Mm-hmm.
but they got soft and they got non-innovative and so forth. Got kind of didn't upgrade their stores and they got comfortable with that and so that can happen in a church as well.
Yes.
Somebody wrote here life lessons, and they're absolutely right. Tone at the top is a very important concept that strengthens or weakens. Okay, and so it's guaranteed that we have to change. We just simply, even when we've been successful, we have to embrace creative destruction a little bit, do it on our time schedule rather than have it be forced on us, to develop as leaders and to have vision for the future because things change. Look, the Worldwide Church of God was actually very progressive in a sense, although it evolved into becoming kind of stodgy and top heavy. But radio was brand new. We embraced radio at the early stages, radio evangelism. When television came out, we embraced that. We even had worldwide services via satellite, which was kind of cool back at the time. And so,
yeah, there was things that was going on that like we take for granted now. That like at the Feast of Tabernacles back in the 70s, you would have like I guess what we would call webcasting, but like satellite casting of services from different places, like sewn at the same time around the world. That's amazing.
No, so even having a free color magazine to people, right? Magazines are kind of obsolete now in a lot of ways, but at the time, we're going to send out a magazine that people can put on their coffee table, and we're going to do it for free, right? Unheard of. So we have a history of being innovative, okay, and progressing, and we can't just look backwards and say, well, if we just recreate 1957, that'll apply for 2024. It doesn't work that way, okay? So we've got to self-examine ourselves. I'll launch into the first personality type, again, in business or ministry that can cause failure or be a problem. That is being personality driven. In other words, it's all about the persona of the pastor or the leader or the pastor general or president or whatever you want to call it, right? And it's revolving around that persona, right? It's designed to promote, support, and prop up the personality, okay? And people will be tempted to look the other way if there's some false doctrine or if there's sin and all that, because, well, the whole organization's propped around the intermediary of this celebrity. And so it's very, very important, I think, to diversify away from a personality, because if that personality fails or there's a scandal or something like that, the entire organization can fall apart.
Yeah. I have an example.
We've had that experience.
Yeah. I mean, we can talk about our own church as well, but I have a recent example that I saw when I first started working for CGI, which has been over 10 years ago. I was like, I wanted to research and say, hey, what ministries are successful and what ones are not successful. And I found this one ministry where there was this guy, he was teaching about the Sabbath and the holy days. I don't know if he even had a connection with Church of God, but he was teaching everything we were teaching, and he was having debates with people, and he was presenting this really good image. And so his website was growing. People were moving out to where his church was at. They were growing. He had satellite churches everywhere. And then he got arrested. He got arrested for like a scam that involved
Financial.
Financial fraud against seniors and stuff. So he's in this financial fraud, and I was like, wow. And then so after he was put in prison, I think he just recently got out, but after he was put in prison, that whole church just kind of faded away because it was that one person was behind it.
Yeah, it's a weak link, and even with Worldwide Church of God, you had a very top-down structure.
Yeah.
All you had to do, extremely top-down. All you had to do was take out the leader at the top, or have him change, and then it creates a whole pyramid down of destruction.
Right.
And so you need to diversify the power. We're all led by the Spirit of God. There's different gifts. Not everybody can be a minister. Not everybody can be a speaker. Not everybody, but there's different gifts. But we cannot say that people are expendable, okay, if they're not a persona, okay, if they're not the celebrity, if they're not up there in the leadership. They're very valuable, and we have to remember that the ultimate fruit of what we're doing is to produce sons and daughters for God, right? And they're important. They're very, very important. And that is the fruit. It's not the matter of the promotion of a small cadre of people, okay, or just one individual, okay. In the end, it's how many people do we bring to Christ, okay, that are called by God and will be servants in the kingdom of God. That's the fruit, okay. We always need to remember that, and that makes them primary, okay. So
yeah, what's interesting about what you're saying, Bill, is when you look at the example of Christ with his 12 disciples, he taught them, he ministered to them, and he ministered to others, but then he passed the torch. He let them take over through God's Holy Spirit, of course, working through them. But he's let them take that torch, carry it on, take the baton, however you want to describe it. And through church history, that has continued to some weekends, to some stronger ends, depending upon the group or the circumstances. But the examples there with Christ of a servant leader, definitely he got things going, but then he allowed this group to continue it for him,
It's called teaching teachers to teach, okay? Does God need us to do this? Right? Actually, he does not. He could go and skywrite in the clouds the gospel and that type of thing. Your cell phone, and all of a sudden there's the message. Right? He allows us to participate, every one of us, to participate in the miracle of producing sons and daughters for him. So he doesn't need us, but he involves us. And guess what? We're fallible. Okay, so he works with the what's the old line, the old scriptural line, the weak and the base things to confound the mighty. All right, we need to remember that no one is worthy of being worshipped in the temporal world.
And unfortunately, and even today, we have a few that are. And again, this gives the Church of God a bad name, and this is why I really, we got to really speak out against this. Who are now like saying there's some form of Elijah, or that they're the branch of the not that Jesus is the branch, like they're the branch, or they're this person in prophecy, and or they're the whole thing that is going about. And now the kingdom, whoever it is, and when that happens, like that's a warning sign. That's a warning sign to anybody in that church. You're being built on the wrong premise.
Well, how come nobody ever says that they're Judas or something? It's a big shot, right? But here's what happens when you have an overly persona-driven, celebrity-driven environment. Okay, again, it happens in business or even in sports, coaching, and that's that the brethren are expected to become yellow pencils to the leader's dress, their habits, their preferences, lots of their non-biblical opinions about things,
Hmm.
and the like. And so we don't allow for a diversity of people,
Hmm.
right? And I'll give you an example. I had a pastor I really enjoyed, but he was into popcorn. He talked about popcorn in sermons. He made popcorn. You ever came to his place? He made popcorn. Had all these varieties. And well,
Yeah.
what do you think happened? Well, he also dug up his backyard, did a home garden. Well, guess what you saw in the whole congregation? It was
Hmm.
amazing. People who never liked popcorn before were eating popcorn all the time. Everybody dug up their backyard to
I mean,
plant corn and stuff. And look, we like the guy, but it shows though that in leadership you have to be very, very careful
mhm,
because people can worship you. You need to push that away, and you need to
yeah.
let people go their directions of talents that they have, whatever they may be. And
Hmm.
so that we have a diversity. Look, as an investment manager, you want diversification in your portfolio, right? You don't want everything to be one particular stock or something like that. It's
Hmm.
dangerous. And so you want to make sure that part of your job in leadership is to develop a team with diverse talents, not to have everybody be just like you. Because if they're just like you, they will only come up with thoughts like you. And you need to have diversity of thinking,
Hmm.
all right, of
Yeah,
creativity.
I would read this comment that's going along with what you're saying from Life Lessons. It says, an interesting study is to look at how different the apostles were.
Yeah, yeah,
Absolutely.
there were zealots, there were fishermen, there were different types of personalities there,
Mhm,
and I think that was for a reason.
mhm,
Just like within leadership structures, if you've got just everybody, what can happen is something called group think, where everybody starts thinking the same way.
mhm,
There is no devil's advocate. There is no alternative idea, and I worked in the intelligence world, and I can tell you of intelligence failures due to the fact that everybody started thinking the way the leader wanted them to think
mhm,
because they were influenced by that. And it led to things like mistakes in Iraq, where we thought there were these weapons of mass destruction due to one individual, a human source, giving us that information. And everybody went with that because the leadership in Washington wanted to go into Iraq. So they believed this source more than other sources,
mhm,
and it led to failure. Led to failure.
Yeah.
mhm,
So again, as leaders, we need to have people develop their interests, develop their studies, develop their personalities, whatever gifts that God has given. They're very diverse, and extol that and recognize it. And again, even if it's a little bit different to me, look, I'm not very musical at all. I can't sing. I can't anything to do with it, right? But you got to admire those people and extol those people and realize they're very valuable. Or other talents. Some people are very good at uh, spreading the gospel. Other people are a support team. The different gifts that are there aren't oftentimes the spiritual gifts that are mentioned in Scripture are not oftentimes extolled equally, but they're all important and important for us so that we can again have the team and the different outlooks so that we can grow with the changing times. I'm not saying about changing sin. Sin is you
mhm.
know constant, right?
Right.
As far as the Ten
Mhm,
Commandments, that type of thing. But to be able to approach people and think about things and be relevant to the culture. Okay,
mhm.
so we could probably talk about this one topic for a whole hour, but I've got about seven of these. Let's move on. So, how about performance-driven leadership? And it's all about the show. It's all about the service and the sermon and putting on a good entertaining thing, or it could even be a provocative thing. And it could be about secret revelations about the future. I've got the insight. Let me tell you, uh, there's lizard people that are running the world, and Michelle Man, and all that, right? The Illuminati and all that. Uh, some of it could be
Yeah, I
entertaining.
mean, it sounds funny you saying that, but there are Church of God people who teach those stuff.
I agree. I agree. First of all, you're right. out of those commercial airliners are spraying us with. I don't know what they're spraying us with, but anyway, my weeds are still growing. That's all I'm going to tell you. But they have supposed new truth. We have new truth, right?
Mm-hmm.
Truth is kind of eternal, but it's new truth. Or they're exceptionally entertaining, or they're charming as a presenter. And look, I really think that when you speak, you should try to be provocative in a sense that you want to make them cry, make them laugh, give them something to take away. We need to work at that. And we've all been through seminars in a business or workshops or even church services where you're slitting your wrist. Look at the watch. Boy, it's only 5 more minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And I can make it, right? You're twirling the tic tac in your mouth.
Yeah.
Anyway, we've been there. So it's incumbent. But again, it's not about the show. It's about the takeaway. Are we giving people something to grab onto?
Mm-hmm.
And but if all you're interested is in a show or provocativeness, then it kind of requires you being fake, like put on the plastic thing.
Yeah.
People want really the best is to be you and to be real. Okay. And we're all different here on the broadcast, right? I shouldn't really try to be Jeff. Look, I'm going to imitate Jeff. I'm going to sound like Jeff. I'll use Jeff's catchwords. I'm going to use Mike's catchwords, right? No. Develop yourself, right? Be the best you that you can. But realize that in the end, it's not about just entertainment.
Right. Yeah,
fake.
for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I know when presenting, I mean, we're supposed to walk, like Jesus walked. So Jesus wasn't boring. So we do have a responsibility in ministry not to be boring. Yeah, and so that's one thing I just want to tell the ministry out there. Just think about that. We have a responsibility not to be boring because Jesus was never boring. But given that, we have also responsibility not to be, like you said, performance or a show or something that's that goes beyond like what we've been given to do by Christ.
Well, Jesus had the advantage; he could do a miracle. All right.
Yeah.
I can't do that. Right. But to try to claim that I have special knowledge or something, I've been touched, I have the title, I have something, I have something, and you're doing like a magic show in a way, right? You're sort of saying, I have the power and you don't. No, that's not where that should go in any kind of leadership. But I think what happens is that if you go into that kind of performance-driven type thing, that glorifying God becomes expendable to the show.
Yeah.
And it has to always glorify God, not glorifying ourselves, right?
And you know what? And again, the kind of people that kind of performance attracts is not healthy, because if you're a Christian, you should be attracted to what Christ has. What Christ is presenting, what He has revealed. I don't need to look to you to reveal something to me new every week. I should already be fulfilled in what Christ has already given to me.
There's a time to be a student. First 5, 6, 7 years maybe. That after your conversion, there's a time to learn and absorb. I was a young man at the time, and so forth. But there should be the transition. Leaders should transition again for you to be handed off and get you involved with that and so forth. And
big thing about leadership, Bill, I think, is that you want to create new leaders. You don't want to be in control forever. You want to give other people an opportunity to do things. Yeah.
Well, in the churches of God, we're getting older and older. Okay, older and older. And my mentor was Ron Dart, and Ron told me, he goes, Bill, I really like you. He's up in his 70s at the time, and he goes, I was about 50 at that time. And he goes, you 50-year-olds, I thought I was mature and smart. He goes, some of you 50-year-olds come up with some stuff. I just shake my head, and he goes, and I said, well, Ron, who's your mentor? He goes, it's tough because now in his late 70s. He goes, well, they're all dead now. I'm it. He goes, well, someday you'll be it. And so again, it's have some faith, develop young people and all that. They're going to make mistakes. It's easy to see the mistakes that us at that time 50-year-olds are making, and even us that are in our 50s or 60s can say, wow, these kids in their 30s They just don't cut it. Boy, imagine what we were thought of at that time in our 30s, right? So
Yeah,
again,
that reminds me of something I learned in business and learned while working, is that a good leader, your job as a leader is to provide the opportunity, provide the tools, provide the resources for the people that you are serving to succeed. And that includes training them, give them what they need, keep providing those resources so that you can see them succeed. And if they do better than you, that's you're doing your job to get
but
them to succeed.
yeah, leadership, that element of jealousy should not ever be there. All right, it should be that, hey, I want you to the student surpasses the teacher. All right,
Mhm.
that is the ultimate goal, and that is what success is. But you can't let jealousy rule that way and all that. The true leadership actually is getting rid of yourself. It really is. That's the job, is to find a replacement, and their job will find a
Yeah.
replacement and so forth. And again,
Mhm.
so we need to, pardon the word, be tolerant though of some mistakes that younger people are going to make. They're converted and all that. They're sincere. They're going to make mistakes, just like in parenting. You have the kids, and they're going to make some mistakes. You got to love them anyway, and see them through it, and work past that. Look, we even had that in the New Testament. Well, with Timothy, right? There was a little bit of an issue and all that. It even caused some political divide there for a while,
Mhm.
and all that. But it worked itself out. You got to have some patience with this teaching process.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, no doubt about it.
I'll move
Yeah, I
into.
think sometimes our best lessons come from our mistakes. So yeah.
Mhm.
It's not the best way. It's best not to go the mistake route, right? But
Right, but you
is a
definitely you remember mistakes because of the emotion much more than when everything's going exactly the way you want it to go.
there's
Yeah.
the
What
neurons
what yeah,
imprinted in your brain
yeah,
from the pain a little bit. Yeah,
yeah. One thought I had, and this is common in Church of God, so it doesn't need to be common. Church of God leaders should not be passing along leadership at their deathbed. Right? It seems like
Yeah.
I'm going to wait till I die, and then I'm going to choose a leader to take my place or whatever. That leader should already be leading way before you ever get to that point.
exactly.
I
Look,
agree with that, Jeff. And
Yeah,
when we look at our political leadership right now,
it looks like
we
that
we
too.
see some things within both parties
Yeah.
that would cause me to pause. I don't want to be involved in. I'd like to write. I'd like to do sermons till I die. But I don't want to be in a position where I'm a main leader in my later years, because you just don't have the energy.
Hmm.
You don't have the faculties that the younger people do. You're right, Jeff, and Bill. You tell me if I'm wrong, but we got to push our younger people to take over sooner, because I think more mistakes can occur when you haven't created a leadership cadre below you to take over at a reasonable time.
when I first had my calling, listening to the radio back when I was about 15 years old, Garner Ted Armstrong, I used to listen to, was 42 years old. And when I came into church, you had Rod Merritt, who was about the same age, and some of the other guys of that class. And they were always referred to, when they were introduced, as longtime mature leaders of the church, or about 40 years old, right?
Hmm.
Now Terry and I, when we come to church, I'm 66, Terry's 59. We kind of get, isn't it great the young people are here today? The, hey, wait a minute, I'm on Medicare now. It's like the young people, right? So there needs to be that handing off, right? And when someone is about 40 years old, that's the cross between, we'll call it youthful energy and some wisdom,
Hmm.
and it's where the two lines cross. And as time goes on, the energy is going to drop. Maybe the wisdom increases, but I think the optimal cross point is probably right around 40 years old. That's when God used Moses and others and so forth. And so we need to be developing that class. If I can pick on our culture a little bit, um, we're we're slaggard in that area. We need to be developing more leadership there. But
Yep.
I wanted to move on to some other points.
Okay. Yes.
This is interesting. We're moving along fast. But how about proving driven? The leader and the leaders are always trying to prove themselves, right? It means that they're trying to one up someone else or another church. Well, we're not like that in our church. Right?
Okay.
We've got more media, right?
Uh-huh.
That other group. Well, our magazine's better,
Gotcha.
smarter than that other leader, right? Or our team is better than that other team. And the tendency is to put down other churches, right? And it's necessary so that that leader can improve himself, that I am the one of God. And the will of God then becomes kind of secondary to leaders proving themselves or
Yeah.
other. And instead of thinking about the gospel to all peoples, we get into the whole concept of sheep stealing, right? That's a warm market. Well, they're already Sabbath keepers, and I'll convince them to come here. And I see that a lot. It really, listen, there's
Yeah, I say one of the tools they use is that like all of them are Laodiceans out there. We're the Philadelphia church. But we're the ones that we're doing it right. I mean, they're okay. They could use some improvement. We're the true God's brand church kind of deal.
Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I know the Philadelphia church, right?
Yeah.
You don't want to hear Philadelphia these days. But no offense to anybody from Philadelphia who's watching, I think they would agree. But anyway, the thing is that we're unique. They use that as a unique selling point, and they view the Church of God universe. My best guesstimate of Sabbath keepers within our heritage is about 25,000 people. It's not that much. You realize there is over 7 billion people on the planet, 7 billion. And what, you're only going to focus on this small little group of people. And sheep stealing should not be leadership, right? I think in business, in all the years I've been in business, I never speak of the competition. Never. I never use we'll call it a selling point, putting down competition. Never had to do it, right? Some people do it that way. I think negative selling is not the way to promote anything. All right. You can't be over focused on that. But there were differences between the disciples and the Pharisees and the Sadducees and all that, but that wasn't the main focus point.
Yeah.
It might have been addressed a little bit, but the main
it's a very odd idea to think of another church as a competition. If we're all part of the Church of God, which is, God's church, he defines out, the boundaries of churches doesn't matter. It's who God puts into his church. There should be no competition at all.
you'll get
Right. I hear what both of you guys are saying. I just want to also state that Jesus did call religious leaders out when they were definitely saying things that were not correct. So I just want to put that out there as another little caveat in this discussion. Yeah,
I agree, but
you're right.
Is our focus today, putting down the Pharisees still?
No. I got your point.
It's promoting Jesus Christ and his way, right? And so you'll get different levels from you're not converted at all to, well, you're sort of converted maybe, right? But our conversion is better, all right? But we were warned in this in Scripture. Remember, it says, some say I am of Apollos, some say I'm of Paul, and all that, and we were told not to be like that. But it is a common problem that you find in all sorts of human activity.
Yeah, a lack of maturity. Playing high school when you're an adult and you need to put your nose to the grindstone. Let's do the work. Let's not worry about that childish stuff. Yeah.
We're not a gang. We're not a gang. That's a gang mentality, really. It might be more sophisticated. I don't know, it's like a criminal, but it's a clique.
A clique,
gang. We're better. And again, in high school, you remember, I remember if you didn't have a Letterman's jacket after the game, you weren't allowed to go to Shakey's Pizza. They would chase you. Hey, get out of here. Locals only, right? down at the beach in Southern California. It was like locals only, whatever that. Like there wasn't enough beach for everybody. So anyway, no, we don't want to have that be in our leadership nature. Next one I wanted to cover was reactionary driven. And some churches are so focused on reacting to what others are doing. So if one church is promoting outreach media, they'll react and say, well, the gospel's already been preached. I know a group like that. It's already been preached. It was done in 1986, and we don't need to do that anymore, right? The gospel, was done. So those people that are doing media outreach, it's just not God's will. So they become the opposite. If another church is pro-member empowerment, they will become heavily top-down. Only our leaders, the top. Enough of this letting the rabble have an opinion, right? They'll lose their own vision. They'll lack their own genuineness. This will produce disciples who look to other people as enemies rather than human beings made in the image of God. And we got to remember, even Jesus, when he was on the cross, he was the one to say, forgive them for they know not what they do. Boy, that's an incredible thing if you think about it. But are we as forgiving, right? Are we as, hey, I was down at the basketball court cussing and cursing. The 15-year-old kid, God decided to reach down there and touch this kid and get him listening to The World Tomorrow, right? I was vile in a lot of ways. Never was involved in physical sin as such, but, I was just, hooligan in a lot of ways, just hanging around with street guys playing hoop and cursing every other word and using God's name in vain and the like. And God said, no, I'm going to pick him. But Peter probably was no different in his day too. God can work with that. So again, we got to be careful with the judgment thing. And we need to be patient with people too, that people that may come in our fellowship, their core beliefs may not all be there. It takes some time. We need to be patient with that and cater to that and not be reactionary. But again, especially though, and we can do this about people from Protestant backgrounds. Okay, those no good Protestants, this is no good Catholics, that those no good Mormons, this and that, and so on and so forth. We need to respect the sincerity that they have. Again, we learn and move past that, right? But I have a neighbor that's LDS. I'll take the whole neighborhood being LDS, quite frankly. All right, it's.
I had a couple of Mormons come visit me like a couple of weeks ago. I had ordered this. You can order the Pirate Bible online, which is a Bible that's like all pirate speak. It's like translated to speak like a pirate. And they said, and once you order it, they say, hey, we'll give you a free King James version, but we'll hand deliver it to you. I was like, well, yeah, I want my free Bible because I paid money on this other one. Give me my Bible. And a couple of Mormons came and delivered it.
So it's a Latter-day Saints technique to try to get to your door. Is that it, Jeff?
I guess so, but the Pirate Bible it's a fun Bible. It's it's a good way to reach out to somebody. But these were the nicest young guys. I think it was kids. They were like 18, 19, 20. They were nice. They were like this. They just so good people. So I would hate that anybody would talk down about anybody in some other religion that are behaving well. It's just that we just disagree with their doctrine.
Right. No, we need to always praise good works wherever it's found and good citizenship wherever it's found.
Yeah.
Okay. And I'll tell you what LDS do up here in Montana. Door knocking's tough, so people don't answer their doors. But so you'll see little ads says, "We will shovel your snow for free." Just here's a phone number, and here come the nice LDS kids, and they come up there and they shovel your sidewalks and your long driveway and all that. And they go, well, thank you very much. Well, all we want to do is just say another gospel of Jesus Christ and so on. So anyway, it's been actually fairly effective, I understand. And
that's a business tech or persuasion technique, reciprocity.
Yes.
People, it is a sales technique that when you give somebody something for free, right, that you want to reciprocate with that. of greater or equal value. Well, especially when it's something as onerous as somebody shoveled your driveway when it's
Mhm.
5 degrees out. Hey, come on in.
Yeah.
Well,
Right. Right.
have some hot chocolate. Right? Oh, while we're here.
Yeah.
Anyway, but again, I don't let us not find ourselves
Uh,
putting down anything that's good works. I
yeah.
don't care if it's Islamic or whatever else it is.
Mhm.
Right? There are people with good souls around. Now, I'm not talking about
Yeah.
this as a salvation thing.
You know what? Hey, maybe you have there's a new technique we can use for evangelism. Maybe me and Bill, you, Bill and Mike, we need to go out uh, and like squeegee off people's windshields and stuff, and then like instead of asking for money, it's like no, we want you to read this booklet we have here or something.
Right. 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 Yeah.
Cleaned
The Hare
windows for that.
Krishnas use that.
Cleaned
Yeah.
windows for that. And had a large commercial company at one time. So yeah. Anyway, I'd be very good. I'm still very quick. Anyway, no. So next one I wanted to cover was fad driven. Fad driven. Hey, what's new? What's hip?
Mhm.
This kind of structure is trying to look around it. We'll call it market driven church. All right. And so it can be what's going on with cultural phenomena. So it could be that we're cool. We're the cool. No, look, I think we should be kind of cool, right? We don't want to be out of it,
Mhm.
right? Look, I think the Amish. We have Hutterites and Amish up here in Montana. It's kind of it's kind of cute in its own way. And if we lived to 1825, maybe that would be great, you know. But it's kind of culturally irrelevant, if you understand what I'm saying.
Mhm.
And so we need to be updated and all that with our literature and what we're doing and our preaching styles
Mhm.
and the like. Uh, but if the whole goal is to be cool, we're the cool church. We got rock and roll. Yeah, I'm not against upbeat music either, right? I don't think we have to be stuck in the purple hymnal forever and a day. That's God's hymnal book.
Mhm.
All right. Not putting the hymnal book down. I'm just sort of saying that we can upgrade in that. But if your whole thing is like, we're the rock and roll church, man. We're really grooving,
Mhm.
man. We have longer music sets and the like, and we
Mhm.
have rap or whatever it is. I think that can be a real mistake in leadership style. Okay, there's certain things that hey, I still use Old Spice. I don't want it to change, right?
Mhm.
My dad wore Old Spice. I still wear Old Spice, but no, there's a certain branding that's solid that you need to stay with, right? And on the other side, using the wisdom to know how do we upgrade. That could be a fine line. It's difficult,
Mhm.
but we all know the people who are like. I'm vice president of Bible Staff Association. We have people like we've talked about transitioning into more of a digital format for the
Mhm.
magazine. Like,
Yeah.
no, I don't have a computer, and I'll never get a computer. I don't do internet, that newfangled
Mhm.
stuff. Hey, you can't. You've got to be willing to change beyond that and be upgraded. But again, if you're just being cool for the sake of trying to be cool, or you're looking to the world
Mhm.
to, I don't look good in a nose ring. I'm sorry, I don't. But so again, it's a fine line. We got to use some wisdom on that. Come on to a Greek as a Greek, come on to a Jew as a Jew. So we can't be so culturally irrelevant
Mhm.
that dressy casual works for church,
Yeah.
but there's still a lot of churches. Look, I'm around Wall Street.
Mhm.
If you go in there with the white shirt and a red tie and a blue suit to a meeting, they kind of look at you kind of weird. Not that there's no place to dress up, but even Wall Street has become more of a dressy casual thing.
Mhm.
So do we have to stay stuck in the whole suit and tie thing, or can you just look good? Maybe a sports coat or something, some nice looking
Mhm.
slacks. Again, I don't. I think it's good that we don't look like slobs at church, but again, that can go the other way. Well,
Yeah.
I'm a fashion queen or whatever else it is. So
Mhm.
it's hard for the structure to sustain the same vision over time because it's always going to change with trends.
Yeah.
And so, anyway, your thoughts, guys?
Yeah, we're having a bit of an issue with that. I'd say within our leadership on dress, there are different ideas about that right now,
Mhm.
discussions about that. So that's something that definitely is there, no doubt.
Yeah. I think sometimes with like fad, because I've seen uh a church that we rent from. They're a different, different denomination, but we rent from them. And I was there, just to learn their system, whatever. And the guy's doing their Bible study. He's got like a T-shirt on or a jersey, and he's got blue jeans, and he looks like he's like from the street, and he's got his Bible, and he's acting all, like he's like hip or whatever, but some 40-year-old or something. But what I'm saying is that we could. But there's extremes, and once that fad passes, right? What's left of the church?
Well, my observation's been that we do tend to upgrade, but we're about 20 years behind. Okay,
Yeah.
So I've always told my wife too. She goes, "Look at this new fashion, or whatever it is." Or it was a skirt at the time. It was kind of a skirt and shorts combined. I go, "No, I don't think you should." And so I've always said, as soon as one of the elders' one wife wears one of these things, you can wear it. Right? She goes, "Oh, Vicky won one last week. I'm going to get one." Anyway, so we've tend to lag a little bit. Listen, when the Beatles came out when I was a kid, that was considered revolutionary music. I'm talking about the early Beatles stuff, like "I Want to Hold Your Hand," and stuff they play in the elevator now, right? The Penny Lane, and at the time was considered so radical. Now it's kind of considered kind of out of it. So again, it's a fine line. It's a fine line. We have to trust. Do our people have the Holy Spirit or not? And there are terrors. I get that, right? And what does it say about the tares? You got to be careful about tearing them out. Right? You might take some wheat with you. And so I think it's important leadership, again, is to have people learn to exercise their good judgment. All right. I was a very intelligent catcher in the day, and I hated coaches who wanted to call every pitch. I used to go to all the other games and keep cards. And so I was smarter than a coach, and I had the ability to do it. And so you can overmanage that. If you've developed them to use the Holy Spirit to analyze and to think, all right, then again, you have to let them go out there and sometimes make some mistakes and all that. You can't be overly controlling. Issue guidelines. There are guidelines to things like dress and music and so forth in the Bible. Okay, is it appealing to the carnal self? Is it appealing to your vanity? Is it ruckus? So again, but it can be difficult to decide to say, well, that's of the world. I just heard of one leader that has said that women can't wear any pants that have a zipper in the front.
Yeah, I read that same thing, and I was laughing.
In the Worldwide Church of God in the 60s, and you had to have the zipper on the side, because if it's the zipper in the front, that pertains to being a man. I don't know. So again,
yeah,
teach people to learn how to use wisdom and have critical reason. It's very important for even doctrine and the like to learn critical reason. Ron Dart used to say that you need to immunize your people. In other words, don't try to hide things away. You need to get in there and get into the apologetics of the Sabbath. I can argue very well against the Sabbath. I would do well in a debate. A good debater actually knows all the arguments of the other side. Right? So again, it's developing people and the like, so they can have the wisdom, so they're not fat driven and the like. And again, as in church leadership and church service and all that, don't be looking around and sort of saying, "Hey, what's hot and what's hap?" As far as culturally appealing to the world. Right? And there are churches that are just like full-fledged rock and roll churches. That's why you go there, because it's like a free concert. I know a church in Southern California, kind of looks cool in its own way. It's called Surfer Church. And it's down in Huntington Beach. Everybody comes, they're wearing, beach clothes and swimsuits. They bring their surfboard, and even the pulpit is a surfboard with a scripture on it, right?
Oh, wow.
They talk about the seventh wave, and they use all these analogies from surfing and all that. Anyway, looks like fun, but I think that's kind of I think you would agree, that's kind of a faddish church, right? Here in Montana, we have cowboy churches, and people come to church riding their horse and wearing the tack, and they got the whole cowboy thing going on and all that. Again, that's kind of cool in its own way, but on the other side, is that gimmicky? right? It's kind of like a cowboy church,
Right.
right? So anyway, how about this next type? The numbers-driven church.
Mm.
All right, churches of God, by the way, the most analytical. I'm a numbers guy. I'm in a numbers business, so I
Mhm.
understand performance metrics and all that, and I like to quantify almost everything in terms
Mhm.
of numbers, and numbers are truthful about a lot of things. But you can be numbers driven. How many magazines we put out? We're doing great because we have increased our circulation 29%, right?
Mhm. I've
Or
heard that.
how many people did we have at the feast, right? Money could be a numbers driven thing. You know, income is up
Mhm.
13% this year over last year. Offerings per person this year,
Right.
you know, up over blah, blah, blah. We're doing that means we're pleasing God or we're producing fruit
Yeah.
because the numbers are good. But
But
the numbers,
there's a fallacy in that because some people will say, "Oh, because we have the numbers, we're the church, we're the true church."
yes,
But if you were going to say that, then wouldn't the Catholic Church be the true church? Because they have like the best numbers, don't they? When it comes to all that.
those pennies in the plate add up when you've got, you know,
Yeah.
500 million Catholics, right? It
Yeah.
really it adds up, and certainly none of our facilities have ever matched the grandeur of the Vatican. Okay, and
Mhm.
so you can get faked out by numbers, all right, and you can have good numbers, but underneath you're not really producing what we need to accomplish, which is again conversion and growth spiritually, and
Mhm.
so
Right.
so you can be overlooking that ultimate goal and hide behind numbers. I
Mhm.
know of an organization, Church of God organization. You know, they put out 20 million Sunday paper inserts. I didn't even know they could have
Wow.
that many Sunday papers going out anymore.
No.
You know,
Yeah.
wow, that sounds impressive, right? Or you can play a game even with your media. You can play this game, which is our footprint for our radio broadcasts on shortwave reached 6.9 billion people. Potential
Potential people. Yeah.
Yeah. How many people were listening? Yeah. Yeah.
12, you know, but the potential audience, you know, this broadcast, let me play the game.
Yeah. This broadcast has a potential audience of 7 billion people.
7
Like,
billion people
yeah.
potentially could
Not
see.
yeah. It's been over 1900 years since the gospel has been preached, but today we're preaching the gospel here on Prove All Things with Bill Lucenhide, because the gospel can go out to these 7 billion people, that kind of thing, right?
Potential.
Potential people.
Look, I do think the early apostles and the like would be absolutely amazed at what we're able to accomplish.
Right.
I mean, it's incredible. Okay, but again, what matters is the effectiveness. We may have the numbers, we may be able to claim these numbers. Are we as effective?
Mhm.
And I've yet to see 3,000 conversions in a day, as what happened from Peter's preaching. Okay, I've yet to see that, and
Mhm.
so that is a number that impresses. So we got to always remember it's not about how much ergs of energy we're expending. All right, it's what is the fruit that we end up with. That
Mhm.
is the true metric.
Right.
Yes.
Okay, and so
And that's much harder to see or understand. You know.
well, it's hard to measure. Again, my mentor Ron Dart
Yeah.
said, because he was not a church, you cannot be a, you know, there was nothing to join. He would
Mhm.
kind of sub that out to other groups and the
Mhm.
like. Because, you know, how effective am I? Well, it was hard to know. He goes, you have to do it on faith, and you never know what little seed that you have given somewhere that takes decades to produce fruit. You know,
Mhm.
I know in my own life, mentors I've had in my own life, they're still affecting me 50, 60 years later. Coaches that I had, teachers that I had, and so on, so they're dead and gone.
Mhm.
They will not know until far future, right? Just how
Mhm.
much effect they had in my life. And I'm looking forward to those days to thank those people. Some were in the church, a lot of them were not. Okay. And they were foundational to my spiritual development. So we have to have that and don't get, and what, here's the other thing too. We will hide behind stats when we don't have good numbers for number of baptisms and that kind of thing. We go,
Mhm.
and here's the excuse. It goes on in business too. Well, it's the market. It's they're just God isn't calling people. The soil is hard.
Mhm.
I think that's a cop out. I really do think that's a
Mhm.
cop out.
I do
Okay.
too.
And so what you do is go, well, we put out 50 million mailers or whatever it was, whatever magazine, 300,000 magazines a month, but it's just that the soil's hard. I think that's a cop out.
Mm-hmm.
And it happens in business. People say, well, just the people just aren't buying our product. Okay. It's their fault. It's the customer's fault. And bad salespeople, that's what they always say. They always try to blame the customer. No,
Mm-hmm.
we have to take a very hard look at ourselves and say we are not meeting the needs of the marketplace.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so again, if we're not being effective, don't fall on the fact that it's the customer's fault. We need to change.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not always easy. It's hard to look in the mirror and look at that. So right along with it, the money-driven thing, which bad leadership will focus on the money. Okay. And I'll just say this, a business guy, if all you're doing is focusing on the money element, how much money are we going to make? How much profit can we make?
Mm-hmm.
And you don't have a passion for putting out the best product, you're not going to make it. You might have a little success, but true greatness in the business world, and I believe spiritually as well, it's not just about the money, but do you have a passion for what you're doing? Okay.
Absolutely.
The money will come. The money, don't worry about it. The money will come if you focus on producing a good product. If you have a passion and a love for what you're doing and want to be the very best that you can, the money will come. All right. Hey, there's cheap ice cream out there for, I see these tubs at Costco, right? So what you have for the kids' party, right? It's $12 for like 40 pounds of ice cream. And that stuff's not good, right? People are willing to pay for the quality, right? When you have that dryers and that type of thing, but they're willing to, or In-N-Out Burger versus McDonald's. Okay. So they take In-N-Out as an example. They concentrate on what a burger is very similar for those of you who live in the Southeast. The passion and the quality matter. People are willing to pay that extra 59 cents for a burger. Okay. And so we need to be the same way. Don't be just money driven or use that as a metric or worry about it. It's secondary. Yes, we need to track that stuff, but it's secondary. Do we have the passion? And I'll say in business is this, I have passion for what I do.
Right.
You cannot lie to a client or to a customer of any type in any field. And if you don't have that passion, you really have that belief, they know. You can't lie or bluff your way through it. All right. Do we have the confidence in what we know and what we have in our church and in our congregations and in our ministries? Because if we try to fake it, they'll know. And so again, money will just be a byproduct. It is not the first element of success. It's a byproduct of success of these more primal things that are going on.
You know what? You mentioned business, and there's something I kept thinking about as you were talking today of these different points that's in there, and Sears Roebuck. I guess is there any Sears Roebuck left? I guess there's not. Right? Are they gone?
They're all gone.
They're all gone, and there's a problem amongst some malls around the country where a lot of malls are starting to just disappear. You have dead malls, and one of the first things that causes a dead mall to fail is that they lose their anchor store.
Right.
And Sears, Macy's, some of these places, they've been these anchor stores. Like people go to Sears and then they kind of go shop at all these other little places because you have this anchor that's pulling people to the mall. But once that anchor's gone, the malls they just fail or they're gone. And I think what you're kind of showing is that if we build our church on the wrong anchors, right? Once those anchors fail, the person dies or the fad goes away or the money's gone or whatever. If we build our church on the wrong anchors, I think our churches are going to fail. I believe our anchor should be Jesus Christ. Our anchor is Jesus. If we build our church upon Jesus and what he teaches and his principles, and we're doing all things to serve him, I think that's more of a method for success rather than building on these other things.
this is going to sound a little Protestant-y. I don't mean it to put them down with this, but Ron Dart, again, told me this. I believe it because of my own experience. When people leave a church, okay, it's because they don't feel loved. They can hide behind a lot of different things. They can put out a lot of bluster. Well, this little twig doctrine I don't agree with, or I had an offense or something like that. Truth is, if you feel loved, you will endure a lot, right?
Mhm.
And so when you go to church, if you're not coming back from church feeling better than when you first showed up, something's wrong. So you can say, it's about Jesus Christ. Okay, well, what is Jesus Christ about? It is about love. It's about
Mhm.
outgoing concern. It's
Mhm.
about fellowship. It's about the body of
Mhm.
Christ and the like. And certainly the commandments of God can
Mhm.
sound stark, but the great principles of love God and love man are there within the 10 commandments, right? And so forth. But also just outgoing concern for others and caring, sharing the burden, crying when others cry, laughing when others laugh. That's the real necessary thing to build a team,
Mhm.
to have the team. Hey, when you go to a movie, it could be a great movie, but you're there alone, right? You might be with a lot of other people, but you haven't developed a team. You're just watching the show. So have you developed a community, okay? And a place where people have relationship. Jesus Christ is a relationship with us,
Mhm.
intimate relationship. It's a husband and a bride. It's that close of a relationship. Are we developing a culture within our churches where there's relationship and that kind of feeling?
Mhm.
Or is it just simply we have an agreement with a doctrine? And we should have agreement with doctrine, but again, if that's it, if that all there is remember the
Mhm.
song, "Is that all there is? Is that all there is?" Well, I don't think it's going to be enough. There has to
Yeah.
be that relationship element to see it through.
Yeah. I think there's a
Yeah,
yeah.
that
Go ahead, Mike.
yeah, so you're hitting on something there with the idea of a team. And again, that takes seeing each other, being with each other. And one of the problems that I think we've had over the last few years is less people have come back to church. And that is causing some issues in some of the
Mhm.
churches still to this day. I could tell you about some of that. And that's something here with the small churches that we do have. It's easier to build that community and that team, but if people aren't continuing to come, you're not going to have anything.
Well, you know what? So
Mhm.
we've got this medium. I'm not against the mediums. All right, enjoy being here on Prove All Things. Okay, but there's and again, I'll use a business concept. Nothing against other forms of marketing, but nothing beats what's called belly to belly. Okay, there's something about, I don't know how to call it, your aura or whatever, so being in the presence of others.
Mhm.
And so we've got in our communities, people just say, "Well, I watch online." Well, it's not enough. It's distant.
Mhm.
Okay, there's something about human beings being together. All right, do not forsake the fellowshipping with one another. All right, and I don't know how to quite explain how that works. Right, but you've got to show up. Listen, I'm an old ball fan. I love baseball. Still try to play with my pitching machine, everything else. Uh, Never graduated at golf. You can watch a ball game on the TV, but nothing beats going to the game. I don't even care if it's a bad seat.
Mhm.
All right, if you guys know what I'm talking about, there's
You know,
an
Yeah.
energy that's there, and so we've got to have that.
I do not like watching baseball on TV, but you take me to a game, and I enjoy it.
It's just the smell and the
Yeah.
sound, and the spilt beer and the
I
hot dogs and
I know what you're saying. Yeah.
even hearing the crack of the bat, and
Mhm.
so we need to have that as well with
Mhm.
our community. Okay, there's something there. It's good to see people, and the energy. I don't know how to describe it. It's not a physical thing. There's just an energy of a group. Okay, and that's important. And again, it's hard to love from afar. We'll call it no long distance relationship, right? Well, is that really a great way to have a relationship. I'm not against that if need be.
Mm-hmm.
If you're sick and you want to watch something online, okay, great. And like, but do not forsake the assembling with others.
Mm-hmm.
You've got to show up. There's something about showing up everywhere and with everything, even a dumb baseball game, right? That has a different type of element to it. We're social animals, if you know what I'm saying. We're in the image of God, of course, but why did God create man? He wanted to have a relationship with others. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
he was going along fine for all eternity, and he decided to take this on. Talk about taking on a tough job, but he's into the idea of relationship. We've got to be into that too, and the driver is love and so forth.
I just thought of an interesting activity. I don't want to do it now because it would, we'd be too critical on things. But go, afterwards, we each could do this. Everybody out there could do this. Go get a piece of paper and write down like the three little letters of all the churches that you know. Just write a list of all these different churches, and then beside that church, write what do you associate that church with. You probably like, I associate it with this person, or I associate it with this, what they're doing, or I associate it with this program, or I associate it with this. And just think about that, and think about your own church. Like, what do people associate our church with? And are we building our church on the right foundations? That's the kind of, that's just that's an idea we all can do, right? Because I think what you're saying, Bill, is we should all take and understand that the Church of God has become dysfunctional, and that and the only way to understand that is to admit it, and to say, hey, what can we do better? Can we do better to serve those that Jesus is calling?
Well,
What can we do better?
I'll just say this. I'm with Daniel Russo on this. As vice president of the Bible Sabbath Association, I visit lots of different Sabbatarian churches, even Seventh-day Adventist churches, okay, and try to break down barriers that are found there. You'd be surprised how many Seventh-day Adventists believe in the holy days and practice the holy days. You'd be surprised how many. And so in doing this, it's very hard to hate someone that you break bread with. It's very hard, okay? And you find some commonality and all that. And when you have people anonymous, right, it's easy. It's easier to kill them, if you know what I'm saying, right?
Yeah.
It's different when you're there around someone and the like. And so with Daniel Russo on that too, I think it's a shame. I include, so I'm not trying to pass it on. I'll say we, all of us together, right? That when there's a funeral, we all seem to get along great, don't we? You see people you haven't seen in 40 years, and you're there, and you give each other a hug and all that. You're in a different group, different thing, and we're all getting along great at a funeral. I've even seen ministers get along at funerals from different groups. All right, there's something messed up here with this, and we are one body, we are one spirit, and like I'd like to see that drop. And again, but it requires all of us to drop our egos, drop our pride, drop our territorial thing, our gang mentality and all that, and realize that God is working in lots of different places and rejoice in that. Let's work again towards love, not demeaning other people made in the very image of God. And even though you see someone homeless walking down the street, I don't know how to quite solve that issue. Okay. It's not necessarily giving them money. Right? But don't judge them and say they're no good or something. God loves them. They're made in the image of God. They have a future, right? They have potential for redemption, and God cares. And we've got to maintain that attitude within our fellowships, and right on down to even the homeless person. Okay, let's not get arrogant, and let's have some love. Jesus Christ was able to love and forgive those that beat him, that hung him up on a cross, pierce his hands and his feet. Give them, Lord, for they know not what they do. That's incredible. That's a high standard. I don't think any of us are there yet. I know I'm not quite there yet either. I don't respond well when I get honked at. When it's not my fault. So anyway, I'm working on it.
Yeah, I think what you said there's that's something we really do need to think about, and how we are as leaders and other leaders, or even anybody. Everybody in the church has their part, has their part of the body. We all have to be a part of this, in whatever leadership role we find ourselves in, or God needs you in. We gotta do these things. Anything else you want to?
Yeah, a lot of
Yeah, go ahead.
last thing I'll say is a lot of leadership is example. That the fact that you are living a certain way can be an example for others. That is a great idea when you come to leadership.
Well,
Yeah,
I'll say this. They
yeah.
used to sing this a lot with the kids. At the feast, they always had the kids sing a song. And kids choir, and it was this, and it's true. It's kind of corny, but it's true. Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and end with that thought. Thank everyone again for joining us today. Again, we could go on for another few hours, but we're gonna have to stop right here. Thank everybody for joining us today on Prove All Things, and we're glad for all the comments, and we thank you again, and we'll see everybody next week on Prove All Things. Goodbye, everyone.
So long, everyone. Thanks.
Thanks, Bill.
Alrighty, bye bye.